All right, let's start. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, good morning, everyone, respected teacher and my dear friends. Today I'm going to present on the topic interseptic orthodontics. So these are the contents of my presentation. Let's move on to introduction. Interseptive orthodontics. Interceptive orthodontics is defined as that phase of science and art of orthodontics which is employed to recognize and eliminate the potential irregularities and malposition that are in the developing dentofacial complexes. It is the definition given by American Association of Orthodontics. So unlike preventive orthodontics, which focuses on elimination of factors that lead to malocclusion, interceptive orthodontics, it is undertaken at the phase where the malocclusion has already been started, but it is in the mild form. So it helps to prevent the progression of the malocclusion in future. So these are the procedures which are undertaken in interceptive orthodontics, which includes serial extraction, correction of developing anterior crossbite, control of abnormal habits, space regaining, muscle exercises, interception of developing skeletal malocclusion, removal of soft tissue and bony barriers. Now let's talk about serial extraction. So serial extraction, it can be defined as plan and sequential removal of certain primary and permanent teeth to intercept and reduce the dental crowding problem. It is the definition given by Tweed. And according to Tandon, serial extraction can be defined as correctly timed removal of certain deciduous teeth and permanent teeth in the mixed dentition cases, which has the dentoalveolar disproportion in order to elevate the crowding of incisor teeth and allow the uninterrupted teeth to guide themselves into improved position and to lessen or even eliminate the period of active appliance therapy. So serial extraction, it is undertaken during the mixed dentition period, and it helps to eliminate the potential irregularities that will be present in developing dentofacial complexes. So these are the indications of serial extraction. It is indicated in case of class 1 malocclusion. We saw the harmony between skeletal and the muscular system. In case of arch length tooth material discrepancy, which have 5 millimeter or more per quadrant, which is indicated by absence of physiological spacing or unilateral or bilateral premature loss of deciduous canine with the midline shift impacted or the malposition lateral incisor that will erupt palatally out of arch. In case of ectopic eruption, it is the condition in which the teeth will not follow the normal path of eruption, and it can even intercept the primary teeth, leading to its premature loss, or even it can cause the malpositioning of the permanent teeth. So it can eventually lead to crowding. Next is extensive proximal caries. So when there is the proximal caries, there is a loss of tooth material in the proximal surface of the tooth, and the adjacent tooth will shift majorly, resulting in loss of space. And next is tooth ankylosis. It is the condition in which there is fusion of cementum with that of bone. So when there is overwritten primary teeth due to ankylosis, it can cause deflection in the eruption of permanent teeth, leading to crowding. Next indication is when the growth is not enough to overcome these discrepancies between the tooth material and basal bone. Next is patient with a straight profile and pleasing appearance. Now let's talk about the contraindication of serial extraction. It is contraindicated in case of class 2 and class 3 malocclusion. We saw the skeletal abnormalities. If there is mild to moderate crowding, that is arch length tooth material discrepancy of less than 5 millimeter per quadrant, it is contraindicated in case of congenital absence of teeth, in case of extensive caries involving permanent first molar, which cannot be conserved. So eventually it will lead to the exfoliation of the molars, so it will create the space. Next contraindication is space dentition, and next is open bite and deep bite, which should be corrected first. Now let's talk about diagnosis and treatment planning for the serial extraction. The diagnosis involves comprehensive assessment of dental, skeletal, and soft tissue. There should be tooth material and arch length discrepancy. It can be identified by various investigation like model analysis, radiographs, and photographs. So study models should be taken, which helps to access the dental anatomy as well as intercuspation of teeth. It helps to access the arch form and evaluate the occlusion. So under model analysis, we can do arch perimeter analysis, caries analysis, and mixed dentition analysis, which will show the arch length tooth material discrepancies. Next are the radiograph. Different radiograph like IOPA, lateral safe, OPG can be taken for the detection of either supernumerary teeth or congenitally missing teeth or any bony pathological condition. We can check for the eruption pattern. We can check the dental age of the patient, or we can check the stage of root development. It helps to identify the facial patterns and relationship between craniofacial structure, and we can also detect the changes in mid and post-treatment relationship. Next is the photograph. Photograph can be taken before, during, and after the treatment to evaluate the case. It also helps to motivate the patient by showing the progress in the treatment and to observe any changes extraorally and to access the muscular hypo or hyperactivity. Next are the procedure which are undertaken during the serial extraction. The most common procedure are Twist method, Duell's method, and Nance method. Now let's talk about Twist method. The sequence of extraction in the case of Twist method is DC4. So at the age of 8, first of all, the deciduous first molar are extracted and the deciduous canines are maintained in place. It will delay the eruption of the permanent canines, and when the first premolar, they are in advanced erupting stage, which is detected radiographically. That means the crown is above the alveolar bone. Then deciduous canines are extracted, as well as the first premolar, which will create the space for the proper alignment of permanent canines, as well as it will help to elevate the anterior crowding. Next is Duell's method. The sequence of extraction in the Duell's method is CD4. So at the age of 8.5, first of all, the deciduous canines are extracted. And after the extraction of deciduous canines, it will create the space which will allow for the alignment of the anterior teeth which are crowded. And at the age of 9.5 years, we have to check for the root development in the first premolar. If half of the root of the first premolar is developed, which is detected radiographically, then we should go for the extraction of the deciduous first molar, as well as the which will cause the accelerated eruption of first premolar. And again, the first premolar is extracted so that it will create the space and it will allow for the proper alignment of the permanent canines. Next is the Nance method. It is also called as modified Twist method. The pattern of extraction is D4C. So at the age of 8 years, first of all, we have to go for deciduous first molar are extracted, and these deciduous canines are maintained in place, which will delay the eruption of permanent canines. So after that, we have to go for the extraction of first premolar as well as the deciduous canines. It will create the space for the alignment of the permanent canine and the anterior teeth. Now let's talk about the correction of developing anterior crossbite. Anterior crossbite, it is the condition which is characterized by reverse overjet, where one or more maxillary anterior teeth, they are in lingual relation to the mandibular teeth. So it is important to intercept this malocclusion at an early stage, because this type of malocclusion is self-perpetuating. That means if it is present in the primary dentition, then most probably it will present in the mixed and the permanent dentition as well. And simple anterior crossbite that are not treated, they have the potential of developing into the skeletal malocclusion in the future. Now let's talk about the classification of anterior crossbite, which are broadly classified as dentoalveolar anterior crossbite, skeletal, and the functional anterior crossbite. First is the dentoalveolar anterior crossbite. It is usually localized condition where one or more maxillary anterior teeth, they are in lingual relation to the mandibular anterior teeth. The causes can be lingual eruption pathway of the maxillary anterior due to overwritten deciduous teeth that will deflect the erupting permanent teeth into more palatal position, due to the trauma to the deciduous dentition that can deflect the tooth board of the permanent teeth. And another cause is the supernumerary teeth. For the treatment of the dentoalveolar anterior crossbite, tongue blades can be used. They are used if the crossbite is seen at the time when the permanent teeth, they are erupting and there is sufficient space for the tooth to be brought out. So it is generally used for the developing single tooth and anterior crossbite. So it is basically a flat wooden stick. It is placed contacting the palatal aspect of the tooth, which is in crossbite, and the blade, it will rest on the mandibular teeth as seen in the figure, which is in crossbite, that act as a fulcrum while rotating the blade upward and forward. So it is continued for 1 to 2 hours for about 2 weeks. Next appliance is the Catalan's appliance. So it is also called as lower anterior inclined plane. It consists of the inclined plane that is cemented on the mandibular incisor. It is used for correction of developing single tooth anterior crossbite or segment of tooth which are in the crossbite. So the lower inclined plane, it is constructed at an angle 45 degree to the maxillary occlusal plane. So this angulation will allow the maxillary teeth which are in crossbite to move to more level position and correct the crossbite. It can be made up of acrylic or even cast metal. So some of the prerequisites for the use of Catalan's appliance are: there should be enough space in the maxillary arch for the alignment of teeth. The erupting maxillary teeth that are to be corrected should be retroclined because it causes the level movement of the teeth, and mandibular incisors should tolerate the forces generated and they should be well aligned, and the patient should be cooperative. Some of the disadvantages are: it creates the problem in speech as well as chewing. It cannot be given in the periodontally compromised and malaligned mandibular incisor because they cannot tolerate the force generated, and prolonged use can cause the anterior open bite. So it is recommended to use for the period of 6 weeks. Next is double cantilever spring or the Z spring. It consists of double helix, which is placed between the two parallel arms, and the inferior arm extends as a retentive component to the acrylic base plate. So this spring is effective when there is enough space which is available for the alignment of the teeth which is in crossbite. Now let's talk about the skeletal anterior crossbite. These are the crossbite due to the malpositioning or malformation of the jaws, or skeletal discrepancies in the growth of maxilla and mandible. The causes for the skeletal discrepancies are retarded maxillary growth or maxillary skeletal retrognathism, or excessive mandibular growth or mandibular prognathism. This type of malocclusion should be intercepted at an early stage of life by the growth modulation procedure by the use of different orthopedic appliances. Now let's talk about the treatment. First is reverse pull headgear or the protraction face mask. It is used to treat the anterior crossbite due to the retroposition maxilla. So it will protract the maxilla and normalize the skeletal crossbite. It consists of forehead cap, chin cap, elastics, and intraoral appliance. So this elastic will provide the forward traction force to the maxillary arch, and it will also cause the forward and downward movement of the maxilla. Next is the chin cup. It is used to treat the developing anterior crossbite due to the prominent mandible or mandibular prognathism. So the parts includes the chin cup. This is the force element, and this is the anchor unit. So it will redirect the growth of the mandible and tend to rotate the mandible downward and backward. So it basically inhibits the clockwise rotation of mandible. Now let's talk about the functional anterior crossbite. So it is caused due to the presence of occlusal interferences which result in deviation of mandible during the jaw closure. It can be appreciated in the pseudo class 3 malocclusion, in which there are the occlusal interferences which forces the mandible to in a more forward position to gain the maximum intercuspation, so which result in the functional anterior crossbite. The causes for the different occlusal interferences can be early loss of deciduous teeth, decayed teeth, or ectopic eruption. The treatment includes elimination of those occlusal prematurities. Now let's move on to control of abnormal habits. Habits refer to certain actions that involving the teeth and other oral and perioral structure which are repeated often enough by some patient to have profound and deleterious effect on the position of teeth as well as on occlusion. Some of the habits that are discussed here are thumb sucking, tongue thrusting, and mouth breathing habit. Let's talk about thumb sucking. Thumb or the digit sucking, it is defined as placement of thumb or one or more fingers in the varying depth in the mouth. So it is considered normal up to 2.5 to 3 years of age. And if this habit persists beyond these years, it can cause a deleterious effect in the dentoalveolar structure like protruded maxillary incisors and localized open bite. Now let's talk about management of thumb sucking habits. Different psychological approach, reminder therapy, mechanical, and the chemical aids can be used for the management of these habits. The psychological approach includes adequate love and affection to the child, because it is said that when the child is deprived of adequate love, nutrition, love, affection, and care from the parent, they will develop this habit as a sign of insecurity. Next is Dunlop beta hypothesis. So this hypothesis says that the best way to eliminate the habit is by by the purposeful repetition of the habit. So according to this hypothesis, the child is asked to sit in front of the mirror, and he is asked to perform the habit of thumb sucking, and child will observe the activity doing by himself. So gradually he can feel awesome of his behavior, and he can eliminate or reduce the habit in the future. Next are the reminder therapy. It is used in the children who desire to quit the habit by themselves. The reminding aids are thermoplastic thumb guard, as seen in the figure first and second figure, that are adhesive tapes, and third it shows the bandages for the elbow to avoid flexing of the hand. Next are the use of mechanical aids, which includes the use of removable habit breaking appliances. These are the plastic appliances which are retained in the oral cavity by the means of clasp, and they have one of the following additional component, either tongue spikes as seen in the first two figure, or tongue guard, or the spurs or the rake. So these first two figures shows the removable appliance with the presence of tongue guard, and next is a removable appliance with the presence of palatal creep. Now let's talk about the fixed habit breaking appliances. These are the heavy gauze stainless steel wire that can be designed to form a frame that is soldered to the band on the molar. This includes quad helix in the first figure, helix in the second, and maxillary lingual arch with the palatal creep on the third. So this basically remind the patient not to put their finger inside the oral cavity. Next is the chemical aids. It recommends the use of hot flavor, bitter tasting, and foul smelling preparation that are to be placed in the thumb or the finger that are sucked. The medicaments includes red pepper dissolved in the volatile liquid medium, quinine, and asafoetida. In the market, various anti-thumb sucking solutions are also marketed. For example, Femite, anti-thumb, and thumbs up. Now let's talk about tongue thrusting habit. It is defined as the condition in which the tongue makes contact with any teeth anterior, which are present anterior to the molar during the swallowing. So it is associated with proclination of anterior teeth, anterior open bite, bimaxillary protrusion, or posterior open bite in the lateral tongue thrust. Now let's talk about the management of tongue thrusting. We have use of habit breaking appliances which are similar to that used for the thumb sucking can be used, that may be removable or the fixed palatal clips. Child is taught the correct method of swallowing in which the tongue contact with the anterior part of the hard palate rather than the teeth. The different muscle exercises of tongue can also be treated to the child to adopt the new swallowing pattern, like Barnett's tongue positioning exercises, in which the incisive papilla, the position of the incisive papilla is identified, which is present behind the maxillary central incisor, and the child is asked to place his tip of the tongue in the papilla and swallow. Next is the use of sugarless mint. That means sugarless mint is held against the roof of the palate and asks the child to swallow by keeping his cheeks and lips closed. Next is the use of single elastic swallow of Gardiner. It includes the use of one orthodontic elastic band which is placed on the tip of the tongue, and asks the child to raise the tongue towards the rugae area and swallow. Next is the double elastic swallow, in which two elastic bands are used, one in the tip of the tongue and next is placed in the midline on the dorsum of the tongue, and asks the patient to swallow by keeping the elastic in position. Next is mouth breathing habit. So it is defined as the habitual respiration through the mouth instead of nose. It can result in altered jaw and tongue posture, which could alter the orofacial equilibrium and leading to malocclusion. Some of the causes can be under obstructive. There are deviated nasal septum, nasal polyps, localized benign tumors, chronic inflammation of the nasal mucosa, and under habitual, it means that child persists the habit even after removal of the obstructive cause. Next is the anatomic. It is present in the child who have the short and hypotonic lips. Now let's talk about the management of mouth breathing. First of all, we have to go for the removal of the nasal and the pharyngeal obstruction, for which we can refer the patient to ENT surgeon. Next is interception of the habit by the use of oral screen. Alternatively, adhesive tapes can also be used. Next is the rapid maxillary arch expansion, which can help in increasing the nasal airflow and decreasing the nasal resistance. It can be used in the patient with the narrow and constricted maxillary arch. Next is the lip exercises for the patient with short and hypotonic upper lip, like tug of war exercise and bottom pull exercises, which will be discussed later. Now let's talk about oral screen or the vestibular screen or oral shield. It is a simple functional appliance that take the form of curved shield of acrylic placed in the labial vestibule as seen in the figure. It helps to retrain and strengthen the action of lips and use as a habit breaker. Breathing holes can be made initially, and as the child learns to breathe through the nose, gradually we can seal the holes with the acrylic. So it is contraindicated in the child who have the nasal obstruction, and it is recommended to wear this appliance during the night time and 2 to 3 hours a day. Next, procedure is space regaining. If the space maintainers are not used after the premature loss of the deciduous second molar, then the permanent first molar may tip to the permanent first molar may tip or move majorly, resulting in the loss of arch length. So the space that is lost can be regained by the use by the distal movement of permanent first molar, which is known as space regaining. So it is the restoration of the dental arch by relocation of the permanent teeth that has been drifted into the space which was previously occupied by the primary teeth. So it is generally undertaken at an early stage prior to the eruption of second molar. Some of the causes for the space loss within the arch are interproximal caries, congenitally missing teeth, delayed eruption of permanent teeth, or premature extraction of the primary molars without space maintenance. Some of the space regainers which can be used are fixed and the removable appliances. Under fixed appliances, it includes Jorber space regainer, jack screw space regainer, and open coil space regainer. Under removable appliances, it includes Holly's appliance with cantilever spring, with split acrylic or dumbbell spring, Holly's appliance with palatal spring, with expansion screw, and Holly's appliance with helical spring. Now let's talk about Jorber space regainer. For the fabrication of this space regainer, orthodontic band or the crown is selected. It is used in the tooth which is to be distalized. It consists of U-shaped hollow tube and the U-shaped rod, and rod enter inside the tubing. The tube is generally soldered on the medial aspect of the tooth which is to be moved, and rod it is fitted inside the tube. Open coil spring are placed around the free end of the rod, and they generate the force by the compression forces generated by the compression of the spring being the distal movement of the tooth. So this space regainer can be appreciated in these two figures, in which there is the presence of U-shaped tube, and there is also the U-shaped rod which has entered inside the tubing, and these are the open coil spring which generate the force for the distal movement of the tooth. Now next is the jack screw space regainer. This appliance consists of split acrylic plate with a jack screw, which is placed in relation to the edentulous space as seen in the figure, and it creates the distal movement of the molar. It is retained by the using Adams clasp. Next is space regaining with the help of cantilever spring. Molar can be distalized using the removable appliance that incorporates simple finger spring to regain the space. Next is the muscle exercises. The development of occlusion depends on the nature of facial muscle. If the orofacial musculature were in the state of balance, then the good occlusion will develop. So muscle exercises help in improving the aberrant muscle function. Now let's talk about some of the muscle exercises. The exercises for lips and the circumoral muscles, which includes stretching of the upper lips to maintain the lip seal in the patient with short and hypotonic lips, holding and pumping of the water back and forth behind the lips, massaging of the lips, button pull exercises in which the half diameter of button it is used, and the thread it is passed from the bottom hole, and bottom it is placed behind the upper and lower lips, and thread is stretched, and asks the patient to pull the thread, and upper and lower lip will restrict the pulling force created by the patient as seen in the figure. Next is tug of war exercise. It is similar to that of button pull exercises, but the two buttons are used. Now exercises for the tongue. One elastic swallow. An orthodontic elastic is placed on the tip of the tongue, and patient is asked to raise the tongue to the rugae area and swallow. And next is the two elastic swallow. Two elastics are used. One is placed on the tip of the tongue and another in the dorsum of the tongue in the midline, asks the patient to swallow. It is generally helps the patient to gain the mature swallowing pattern. Next is the whole pull exercises. The tip of the tongue is made in contact with the palate in the midline, and mandible is gradually open. This allows for stretching of the frenum to relieve the mild tongue tie. Next is tongue hole exercises, in which elastic is used, and patient is asked to place it on the designated spot over the definite period of time with the lips closed. Then again the patient is asked to swallow with the elastic in the same designated position with the lips apart. Now let's talk about the exercises for masseter muscle, in which the patient is asked to clench his teeth, count up to 10 in his mind, and then relax. This has to be repeated over the period of time until the masseter muscle feels tired. Now let's talk about the interception of developing skeletal malocclusion. Skeletal malocclusion can be, which are diagnosed at an early stage, can be intercepted to reduce the severity of malocclusion that may occur in the future. The growth modulation are aimed at normalizing the skeletal relationship. So these changes are brought by various orthopedic as well as the myofunctional appliances. First one is the interception of class 2 malocclusion. Class 2 skeletal malocclusion occurs either due to the excessive maxillary growth or the maxillary prognathism, or deficient mandibular growth or the mandibular retrognatism. Malocclusion due to excessive maxillary growth, it is treated by the use of face bow along with the headgear. So this headgear consists of the outer bow, inner bow, force element, and the anchor unit. So it helps to restrict the forward and downward growth of the maxilla and help in treating the malocclusion. Malocclusion due to the deficient mandibular growth is treated by the use of myofunctional appliances. Next is interception of class 3 malocclusion. Class 3 malocclusion occurs as a result of either excessive mandibular growth or mandibular prognathism, or deficient maxillary growth or maxillary retrognatism, or combination of both. Malocclusion due to excessive mandibular growth can be treated by the use of chin cup therapy as shown in the figure, which includes of chin cup, force element, as well as the anchor unit. This chin cup restrict the clockwise growth of the mandible, and it redirects the growth of mandible downward and backward. Malocclusion due to maxillary retrognatism can be treated by the use of reverse pull headgear or the protraction face masks. And next is the Frankfurt Thor appliances that promote the growth of deficient maxilla. Now let's talk about the last procedure, that means removal of bony and the soft tissue barriers. Whenever the permanent teeth fail to erupt in the oral cavity, eruption can be stimulated by surgically exposing the crown. The causes for the non-eruption of the teeth are overwritten primary teeth, supernumerary teeth, or fibrous or the bony obstruction of the erupting tooth burrs. So we have to go for the removal of those bony as well as the soft tissue barriers, so that the crown of the unerupted teeth, greatest diameter of the crown of the unerupted teeth is exposed. Now, concluding my presentation, the best treatment for any malocclusion is prevention. So if at the preventive stage we are able to evade the malocclusion, it will be less traumatic for the patient. In case we are not able to prevent the malocclusion, we can intercept the malocclusion to avoid the adverse effect on the dental-alveolar structure. In conclusion, the interceptive and the preventive orthodontic procedure enable the clinician to treat or make the developing malocclusion less severe, so as to allow the corrective orthodontics to deliver the stable and more conservative treatment planning, which will benefit the patient. These are the references. Thank you.